We are live. Good evening, Facebook. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Hello, it is Suzanne Hart, and it is time.
We are live. Good evening, Facebook.
All right, so I'm going to give a moment for people to get a chance to join, but I want to tell you what the topic is. So for those of you who are listening to the replay, we're going to be talking about accountability and having an accountability process. We're going to redefine accountability, and I'm going to have a conversation with my accountability buddy, my partner in this process, social media strategist, Taria Hodge. So I'm going to give her a proper introduction in a moment will join, but that is going to be the topic of today. So as you come on in, I want to let you know that the word today is goals. So if there's something that you are excited about and you want to stay in contact with us, you want to type goals in the comments section so we can reach out to you, make sure we get information to you in a timely way. And welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Suzanne Hart. And let me tell you a little bit about how this works. So welcome to Mindset Mastery. And this is a time when we talk about our thinking, our habits, our communication, and managing our emotions. And we're going to touch on all of that today as we talk about this thing called accountability. So as you join in, what I'm going to ask you to do is state your name. We know your name, what you do, and where you're joining us from. Even if you're listening to the replay, because you never know who's going to be scrolling along to do the likes, the hearts, the love, and see some information about you and say, you know what, I need to reach out to that person because I'm looking for a social media strategist. I'm looking for someone who sells clothing. I don't know what it is, but they might be looking for you. And the only way they know is if you do that networking thing and you put yourself out there. So that's the first thing I'm going to ask you to do. The second thing I'm going to ask you to do is to bless a life. And how do you bless a life is you share this information. So we're going to talk about accountability, and we're going to talk about accountability. The last month has really been about setting everybody up for 2020. So we have done vision casting. We have done goals and targets. We talked about how to set up your 100 targets for 100 goals for the year. I know 10 targets, 100 goals, cast that amazing vision. We've been doing it. Taria and I have been working on it on our own. So we talked about that. So now we're going to set you up with accountability, because once you go into 2020 and you have your goals, you want someone who's going to help you keep your goals in front of you, who's going to hold you accountable to what you say you're going to do, and make sure that you don't get distracted by life. Life comes down our street all the time. And when it rolls down your street and you get caught up in it, as we all do, you need that person who's in your corner to say, hey, I remember that goal. Hey, you committed to doing this. They're going to do something that we're going to talk about that's very, very effective. All right. So let me introduce my guest. I'm just going to get myself.
And while you're doing that, I see that Cindy is out there. Great evening, Cindy. Thank you so much for jumping on and joining. How are you?
I'm going to do something that we're going to talk about. That's Hey, Cindy, how are you? I'm playing with technology right now. I see you saying hello, hello. This call, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. Okay, so who's sitting beside me? I have hailing from, okay, so I'm a little jealous. Taria's hailing from St. Thomas right now. Warm sands and sun. And when we do our accountability calls, she makes sure I get to see sunshine, mountains, greenery. So I can totally, be a little envious, but hey, it just inspires me to live into my goals and really just get busy, get in action around what I desire to create, because I too want to be sitting on the beach very shortly. So it's total inspiration. So who is Taria Hodge? Taria Hodge is a social media strategist. This is my social media strategist. So for all of you that have been watching me over the year and seeing the great graphics, the stuff that goes out consistently and persistently, I will say that again, consistently and persistently.
Yes.
Taria has built this strategy for me. It has been so effective in terms of helping me shine, right? Helping me show up and shine, hone my skills, put my great content out there, let people know what my brand is, what do I do, and do it in a way that adds value. One of the things I love about Turia's philosophy in her strategy is if we add value, if we pour into the marketplace, we provide great content, that will create the sale in the long run, because people will come looking for you, wanting to know more. So I am so excited to be partnering with this woman, to have her as my accountability buddy. Turia Hodge. So hey, hon, how are you?
Hi, how are you? How are you? And I heard you talk a little bit about the weather. I smiled to myself because I said, it's a cold day in the VI today. It's all of 80 degrees outside.
Okay, we'll forgive you for that comment. Cindy, I think you should write a comment in the comment section.
One of our cooler days, 79 to 80 degrees today. So it's a cool day in the Virgin Islands.
Well, my desires, I'm going to be seeing you very soon. That's my.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
I want Air Canada to cooperate. That's what I'm asking. Like, seriously.
I saw Don Jordan Jones just jumped on the broadcast, and Don gave, I love what Don says. And Don says, what are you believing in God for this week? So I'm believing in God that Air Canada will cooperate so you can get your ticket to be here with me.
You and me both. You and me both. Thank you for keeping the updates, Turia. Hey, Dawn. Dawn is one of our covenant sister. Yeah. There's 3 Dawns, we believe, because this girl can get things done. She can get things done. So, hey, Dawn, how are you? Dawn is also accompanying us on the Fit, Fab, and Fulfill Freedom Retreat. Yes. February 5th to the 12th. Turia's going. Cindy's going. Lethea Owens and her husband Andre are going. We are going, and we have a few more people that are going, and we have like 1 spot left. Just let you know. All right. So I am so excited. So let's jump into this conversation, and I think this is such a great conversation. And Turia, what I want to start with is when you first started this process, and when we first started. What was accountability? What does accountability mean for you? Because I know I look at it very different to most people.
Yes, so it's very interesting. So until I started working with you, I always thought of an accountability and an accountability partner as that person, who's, you pick that person that you choose, to stay behind you, and they poke and they prod you and they make you do a whole bunch of stuff when you don't want to do it, right? So you tell them, these are the things that I'm going to do. And then what they do is they call you and they say, have you done it yet? Did you do it yet? When are you going to do it? Did you do it yet? And then, and really and truly, I've been a part of accountability groups before, and I've been on projects, and I've been assigned accountability partners. And really and truly, that's what the conversation looks like, right? So, you have someone who's your accountability partner, you're working on a project, right? Then it's time for the call, time for the check-in. And they say, well, what did you do? And I'm like, oh man, I had a busy week. I didn't get a chance to work on that. And then next thing you know, your accountability partner, they tell you the same thing. Oh yeah, man, it's just been crazy for me too. This week I didn't do anything, and then you're still stuck.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. And this is why accountability changed for me, because one of the things I realized is, first of all, no one actually wants to hold anyone accountable. It's uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Right. And it puts the responsibility, one of my favorite words, on the person who should be responsible for themselves. So if you play in Suzanne's world, and I see KG just joined, I see Regina Scott just joined. If you play in my world, I truly believe that you and I are 100% responsible for what we create in the world. That means we come to play. And I'm not going to do accountability with anybody who's not coming to play big and is 100% responsible, because then it's called dragging, and who wants to bring someone along, right? So this is how I have defined accountability for probably the past 8 years, and anybody who knows me knows that this is what I think it is. So we're gonna collaborate. So you and I are gonna come to the table as equals. And we're both going to have this thing called a mirror, right? And so when we come together, my job as your accountability partner is to reflect back to you who you're being and what you're doing. That's it.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. Who you're being and what you're doing. And from that place, you get to choose whether you're going to course correct, do something different. And then when you haven't done, our job is to brainstorm and get you back on track. Now, what I will not do is run around and chase you and ask you if you did the thing. Because then you're not taking responsibility for your greatness, your creation, that thing that's so important to you. And so all I get to do is hold up the mirror of who you're being. Now, what's cool is we get to have conversations about who you're being and why. And we've had a few of those. And you like equally, mutually, who you're being and why, right? And oftentimes there's insight, there's like aha moments. Sometimes there's tears. We've had some tears. Sometimes plain old laughter. But that accountability only works if you and I come to the table equally responsible for the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to put that out there because it's a different definition. So Sharia comes with her mirror and she's going to hold it up to me and she's going to say, this is what you're doing. This is who you're being. And I'm going to decide whether I'm happy with that or not. Mm-hmm. And if I am, we're going to move on and we're going to continue to brainstorm. If I'm not, we're going to problem solve. But I've got to come willing to take responsibility for who I'm being and what I'm doing.
Yeah, and it's so true, right? And so I'll just share with our listening or viewing audience, this evening, when I heard your definition the first time, and you said, and what I'm not going to do, I have to admit, there was this thing inside like, oh my gosh, so she's not going to do that. She's not going to, call me and text me and message me and say, did you get this done? And did you do this? And why didn't you do that? Right. And so there was this feeling on the inside. It's just like, oh my gosh, like, wow, this is serious. This is different. And so I know how I know you've experienced that before when you say, oh, okay, this is a different world. But I'm going to share with you that it forced me to be creative. Right. And so I found some very creative ways to hold myself accountable to the things that I said that I was going to do. And I did them. Right.
And listen to the language. I had to find some creative ways. Mm-hmm. I found ways to hold myself accountable so that I could come to the call complete.
Yes.
And it feels really good.
Yeah.
Right. And Tria, so let me ask you this. As you did this process, did you find, I always say, a bigger, bolder, more brilliant you?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And as I prepared to, come on and share this evening, I thought of the three major areas that we worked on, this past year. And the major one was around my health. Okay. And I absolutely love how accountability, showed up, how I found ways to be accountable around my health from the conversations we had. The second one is business, right? And we could go on and on, and we could talk about all the cool things that we come up with and we do to keep us motivated and keep us on track towards, our goals. And then the one that surprised me the most, Suzanne, that I like to share with everyone is my accountability around learning. So that was one of the things I had on my goal list, right? For 2019, I think my goal was to read like 12 books. Right, for the year. So that's 2 books a month. And I think it was last month I looked and I've read a total of 25 books. And I found a very creative way, right, to hold myself accountable to my learning. And I'm just like, oh, wow. And so what that did for me is forced me to start to look at other areas of my life and how can I be creative around accountability. Okay, what are some of the things? What are some of the fun, creative ways that I could stay accountable? And you are so absolutely correct, because it's not you calling me and saying, "Hey, Taria, did you do this? Did you do that?" It's like I'm so overjoyed, excited when we have our time, during the week to say, "Oh my gosh, this is what I did, and this is what happened." Or this is why I experienced the challenge. What are some of the other ways that I could get past those challenges?
Absolutely. And I think when accountability works really well, there's a synergy, because what would happen is Tria would start doing something and I'd be like, ooh, I need to do that too. So I'd be catching up and I'm like, I'm going to work on that. I'm going to do that too. So she did a challenge and I was like, ooh, I got to figure out something to do that. And so we did some brainstorming and we came up with an idea and it was on. Right. Yeah. And now I had my thing that I was mirroring my accountability partner in.
Yes.
And I think what was really beautiful about this is that accountability has you live almost like the edge of your best self, right? So every time we came to our calls, it wasn't like, oh yeah, I got it done, and oh yay for me. It was, oh yeah, I got it done, let's celebrate. But then it was, what's next?
What's next?
How do we push? How do we stretch? What's the next goal? What are you doing next? How are you sharpening the saw in this area? How are you getting better? And then we also reviewed what was working and what was not.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to talk a little bit about what made this work for everyone that's listening. So you really get, because my goal is to leave you with something, a process that you can use as you go into 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the first thing that we both came with a clear definition of what accountability was. So we were both on the same scary page.
I love that. We're both on the same scary page.
Right. Okay, we're ready. The second thing that we did was we ensured that each of us had clearly defined goals. So we each had 10 targets that we were working on for the year, and 10 goals under each target. And they were clearly defined. We understood them, and we focused mainly on our business and our health and hitting targets around bringing income in so we could feed our finances.
Yeah.
That was our main area. But we also focused on making sure that we got enough rest, we did fun things, but we had these clear targets. So that's the first one. How was that for you in terms of having to really come to just get really clear on where you were going for the year?
So what's really interesting, I did not know you was going to say that, but I thought about that as I started to get prepared, for the call tonight. And I said, what makes, because we're still working, what makes it work so well for us is because we know what each other is aiming for. So, what I did at the beginning of this year is that I wrote my goals and I submitted my goals to you. Okay. So you were able to see my vision, read my vision, and review my goals. Okay. And then you did the same for me. So I have your goals. I know exactly what you're working towards. And so I think bringing that type of energy into, the relationship has, made all the difference in the world. Okay. Because I started to look back at, like I said, in other instances where I've had the opportunity to work with other people and be accountable, around other things, you're not really sure what the other person is aiming for. So what you're aiming for, but even though you know what you're aiming for, you haven't communicated it to that person. Right. So it's like when you're slipping, right? They don't even know to hold the mirror up. They don't know, to show you or remind you like what you're shooting for. They don't have the opportunity. That's the word I want to use. They don't have the opportunity to even have, to come in sync with the same energy level.
Oh, that's great. That's so well said.
So that's what I felt, in just thinking about it. And I said, what? That's what made this relationship so different, is because we're fully aware, of what each other is aiming for. And then we're coming with a different type of energy. And so for people out there listening, it doesn't mean that everything is perfect, you know. It doesn't mean that, we hit everything that we set out to, but just to be able to work, in that energy. And then you have that person that get it because they understand. They see the picture, they understand.
And I think what it allowed for was we came to every call intentional. Like it was one of the things that was so cool, where we were intentional with our time. We were intentional with the calls, and we came to the calls to work. Right. And so that was really key. And one of the things I want to really highlight, which was really neat, was that Taria and I also have very different strengths. So, of course, Taria is a social media strategist. And so one of the areas that she was really growing me and holding me accountable for was my social media and making sure I was consistent and persistent. And you can see it, she did right? And then what I was helping her with was we were looking at her packages and her programs and really making sure that they were clear, pricing was on point, all those different things, because that's my thing that I do well. So we came with different skills, and we came with I needed her strength, and she needed my strengths. And I really want to highlight that, because oftentimes people think, oh, I have to have that person who's doing the same thing or what? No. Get someone who's got the strength that you don't have, and
who will bring a different perspective.
Absolutely,
different perspective.
Yeah, because we would pour into each other literally, and we did, like, I know when I came to Taria, would get out paper and she'd go, okay, so and she'd map out something for me and she'd give it to me and go look at this and go build this out, and then I would do the same thing for her. So we were doing for each other and allowing the other person to leave the call armed with new information that would stretch you.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
I want to talk about the other thing, because the other thing that we also did, and this is so key for accountability to work, is we also made sure that we also knew what the outcome looked like. Like when you hit your target or you achieved your goal, what exactly does that look like? So that I knew that she knew when she would hit something, and I knew and it helped me let her know, like, you're off track right now. Or you were able to let me know you're on track. So let's talk a little bit about what was that like?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that we worked on was getting clear on my core program. So when I met you the end of last year, that was the one thing. And I still laugh and I still smile. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to have a core program, right? And it surprisingly, I hear people talk about this all the time in the marketplace, and they make it sound so easy, right? Like as if it's something that you could kind of like close your eyes like one night and wake up the next morning, and then voila, it's done. And I'm just here to share that it took 6 months for us to build it. Okay, so 6 months, and we're talking about the outcome, right? So you were first able to see the vision, right? First of all, help me articulate the vision clearly so you could also be able to see the vision. So I think that's the biggest thing right there, okay? Yeah. And so once you understood the vision, it became a whole lot easier going back to the drawing board. And I smiled because I actually went back through some of my files that I had. Do you remember that spreadsheet we had?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so we had a spreadsheet first, right? And clearly that was not it. But to continue to do the work.
It was the starting point.
It was the start. And because you understood the vision, it allowed us to just keep fine-tuning and coming back to the drawing board. And then we would test stuff, right? And we would see how well this is working. Okay, so that worked very well. We're going to keep this. Oh, this not working at all. So maybe we just need to go ahead and scrap this, right? Yeah. And so now, and like I said, we completed it like in June, right? And we have the outcome, the desired outcome that we were looking for. And so how that shows up for me as the business owner, like I'm so proud of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm so proud of it. It's built, it's orchestrated, you know, just to let everyone know, like I have totally mapped out my content for 2020 already. My content is done. All 12 months, all 52 weeks is done, right?
So fine.
Yeah. So, and I'm just like, oh, wow, the system works, right? What we've created works. And one of the things that it was able to do is give me confidence in knowing who it's for. Okay. So that was another thing, you know, I was in a space where I have all these great things, right? But not even sure and clear what's for whom.
What's beautiful about that was when we say outcomes, we had outcomes like you needed to know what it looked like.
Yeah.
It needed to be sellable. You need to be able to articulate the sale. Yeah. Someone needed to buy it. Someone needed to pay the price that we came up with. And all those things have happened a number of times. So, and because we're talking business, we're not talking accountability, like we're talking business. So when we talked about accountability for each other, it was, okay, so you got to have a product. This is what the product looks to look like. It needs to be user-friendly. You need to have a price on it. You need to be able to articulate the sale. You need to have be able to feel confident selling it. And someone's got to buy it. Someone's got to go through the process and make sure it's user-friendly. And we tested it out on each other, but then you put it in the marketplace and people were like, yeah, I want this. Yeah, I want this. Yeah, I want this. And it was the same thing for me. Yes, I want this. Yeah. So we're talking, when we talk about outcomes, we're not talking about airy-fairy outcomes. We're talking about outcomes that you need as a business owner in your, like, it has to work.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? That was like my biggest takeaway, like being in this space, you know, it's very easy for you to hear so many, you know, things, but this is what true, like I said, part of it was the product development, right? So this is what true product development looks like. And it's not, like I said, because you dream of it and then you go sleep one night and then poof, you know, you have it, you know, what you have is a concept. You don't have a product. You don't have a product until it's in the marketplace and people are buying it. That's when you have a product. Otherwise, it's just a concept.
Yeah, it's a concept, and you're the only one excited about it. Not. You said something that triggered one of the things I wrote down in preparation for this live, and I wrote down that failure is where accountability thrives, right? And so for accountability to work, this is not about looking good. This is not about showing up, having it all together. This is not about showing up as your best self. It's about showing up messy, in failure, in breakdown, in I don't know, in I'm frustrated, in all of those things, because that's when your accountability partner can help you work some magic that's going to create your breakthrough. So talk about the power of failure, and the spreadsheet was a great example.
Yes, that was an epic fail. You know, it's so funny. It's like I never thought about that until you said it. The power of accountability is in failure, and that is like so true, because once again, is that holding up the mirror. Right? So it's like, who are you going to be? Because you had an idea and you tried it once, you know, it didn't work. You know, do you fold up your hands and say, I quit? You know, take your ball and go home. You don't want to play with others anymore. So it gives you the opportunity to really take a look at who you're being. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that, you know, I realized is like, oh, wow. So it hurt. Yeah. You know, because I thought at first the spreadsheet was just brilliant. And I just put a whole lot of time into that spreadsheet. OK, we tried it. We worked. And this is like, this is too confusing. And I have to admit, it's like I sat and I pout for a little bit. Like, I can't believe my spreadsheet is not it. But it forced me to say, well, okay, you know, what else can I do? What else can I try? And I think that that's really the true gifting, you know, for everyone. When you really go through those situations and you have those challenges, not to quit, you know, and to think about, well, okay, that didn't work. What can I do to improve? Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then always keep asking yourself, what can I do to improve? What can I do to improve? And a lot of times, you know, people just give up. They get mad, they get frustrated. One of the things I love working with you this year is I pay attention to energy now, right? So what energy, what attitude am I bringing into a situation? And so it's okay to feel, you know, something, but how are you going to adjust? How are you going to just sit in acceptance? So a lot of stuff, right? How are you going to sit in acceptance, you know, with it? What can you change? What can you not change? What do you have to accept? What do you have to be responsible? And how quickly can you move on? Okay. And just understanding those key concepts for me has been huge, you know, and it's almost like a game now, right? So that didn't work. What else can I try? What other idea can I come up with? What else can I put in, you know, into it to make it better? So
you know, I love the fact that you're saying that, and I will say one of the beauties of working with you is you are very good at managing your energy. You're also very good at receiving feedback, and you're also driven for solutions. Right. So yeah, I mean, we tried the spreadsheet. It was confusing. You took the feedback, and within, I think it was like 2 days, you were like, okay, here's another version. And I think that process had like 5 versions. And I want people to hear that.
Yeah.
The process had like 5 different versions to us coming up with something that worked. Even with my social media, you know, there were Turia would tell me, like, you know, when you're doing your social media, so I'm going to do it now. For those of you who are joining, I'm interviewing Turia Hodge, and she's a social media strategist. The word today is goals. And so if you're hearing something that's resonating with you and you want to make sure you get access to this live, you get any worksheets that we're sending out, you want to put goals in the comment section. Right. So that for me was one of the things. Tria was like, Suzanne, in the middle of your lives, you got to do this. You know, I want to hear this. So we were giving each other feedback. And I think what was nice was we were both very open to receiving, not taking the feedback personal, not making it mean anything about who we are or how brilliant we were. It was about this person is committed to making my best better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And you know, I just have to kind of add to that, you know, because once again, so many times I think people are really truly looking, you know, for others, you know, to be that person to work with. And I'm just smiling over this whole entire conversation, because one of the things I started to tell myself this year is that I'm not journeying alone, right? Like, I don't want to do this work, you know, on my own. So I'm looking, you know, for people that I could help, right? And people who could also support me as well. Okay. But a lot of times we really don't know what that looks like.
Absolutely.
Okay? So having, you know, this type of conversation and making sure that the person that you do pick as your accountability partner, right? And it could be a deep relationship like we have, because we made a commitment, right? And that's that. Right. But you might be in other situations where, you know, you might be on a project and you might be working, you know, with a team. So that commitment might be a shorter commitment or a short-term commitment. I still think the concepts, you know, apply. Right. Absolutely. So, yeah. So are you clear on the vision? Are you clear on the goals? You know, does everyone understand the concepts, you know, about managing energy? Right? When something doesn't work, how do you accept the feedback? How do you move on? Because a lot of times, you know, if you're working with someone and they don't understand those basic things, then the result is just being stuck. And then everybody's stuck, because when you get stuck, it's like,
Absolutely.
yeah, they're like, oh, okay, I'm stuck too.
And I think what was, and I'm going to be totally candid, is that for the process to work, you also have to be prepared to bless and release a person who's salty. And salty just means they coming in with negative energy. They're not holding themselves accountable. They're living in the land of excuses, and they're really wishing things could happen, but they're not committed to things happening, right? And so, I'm willing to be that for Taria, and I trust that she's willing to be that for me, in that she's not pulling me along and I'm not pulling her along. We're coming responsible for who we're being in the commitment. And so I'm totally ready to bless and release my accountability partner. And I think for accountability to work, we have to be able to sit with each other and go, girl, this is not working, and I gotta let you go because I'm about my business.
Yeah.
Right. And not be, I'm rejecting you. This is just not your time, your season, whatever it is. And my time is valuable. Your time is valuable. Let's not play a game that we can't win.
Yeah.
No one's committed to winning.
Yeah.
Right. I want to talk a little bit about deliberate practice and the process of intentionally creating systems and processes. So one of the things for accountability to really work. So I know there's some of you that are listening and you're the fly by the seat of your pants people. I don't do no systems. I just wing it. That is so hard for growth to happen. It's so hard for accountability to happen. And it makes it so challenging for you to find your blind spots, right? So one of the things that Taria and I had to be on the same page about was our commitment to, no matter what we did, we had a process. Because in order for Taria to effectively support me, she had to be able to follow the bouncing ball.
Yeah.
Right? This is how this is supposed to look, Taria. And when I had a breakdown, we'd be able to go, okay, let's look here. Okay, that's working well. Let's look here. That's working well. Ooh, this is not working well. This is working well. This is working well. Let's spend our accountability call focused on this one area where things aren't working well, and let's brainstorm and find a solution, right? And it's deliberate. And then I would go off and I would do the do, right? Yep. I would practice. And it does two things. It would maybe that I have to have a new skill and I need to own that skill. It may be that I need to get some new information, but once I get the information, I still got to go practice.
Yep.
And so for this to work, it lived in the doing, the analysis of the process, finding the place that was broken and then, or challenging and fixing it.
Yeah.
Right. So talk a little bit about how that affected your process. Because I know for you, we had some like wow wins, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So like I said, I could just think of like 3 standout areas, right? But I'm going to keep it to the business. And that's what it's all about, right? So you talk about flying at the seat of your pants. And I don't think for me, it was flying at the seat of my pants. I think for me, everything was up here.
Oh, talk.
Okay. So that was my thing, right? My thing is like everything is in my head. And in order for the business to grow, then it needs to get out of my head. It needs to get on paper, in a systematic and organized way, right? So now, once again, the vision, right? So the team could see it and the team could effectively execute. And that was huge for me this year because I remember noticing the space opening up for me. And I was just like, oh, well, what do I do now?
I got time.
Right. Like, what do I do now? Right. And it was almost kind of weird. And I love what you did with me. So when we did have, those breakdowns sometimes, and, my automatic way of being was to go back and be the one to do. You said, no, 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 that's not what you do. Right? You go back to your system, you go back to your process, and this is how you hold the team accountable. So I had to put a system in place that allowed me to be accountable in holding others accountable. So it was like the craziest thing, but it worked. It's like, cause I would have never thought of doing that before. And before it would be just craziness. And once again, the energy and the emotions and all that stuff, you want to pull the blanket over your head. But I didn't have any of those days in 2019 because I did not. And it's so funny. Like, I really said that. It's like, oh my gosh, I did not cry in 2019. Like, I cried a lot in 2018. I cried in 2019 because it's like looking at the energy. So even though it doesn't mean that things are perfect, doesn't mean that things are 100%, doesn't mean that we don't have work to do. There's still work to do. But in the midst of all of those challenges, I'm still excited, to find the solutions. I'm still excited to do the work. I could see the big picture, and it's just like, oh, okay, so that happened. What do we need to do to fix it? Let's go ahead and fix it.
And I love what you're saying, because one of the things you're talking about is the power of the pen, right? And so we take things out of our head and we use the pen or the computer and we put it down on paper so we can see it. And then we systematize it, which is what you began to do. And this is what, accountability lives in clarity.
Yeah.
And so when you're the only one with the information in your head, you and whoever you're collaborating with are not on the same page.
Yeah.
When stuff is coming to put down on paper and everybody can look at it and say, okay, I get it. And they can ask their questions. Now you're on the same page. And for those of you who are managing teams, leading teams, the biggest disservice you can give a team is not to have an accountability process built in clarity.
Yeah.
Right? Because then people are fearful of taking action because they actually don't know what the action is that they're responsible for taking, because they don't know what it looks like because it's in your head. So now they're in the guessing game. And when people are in the guessing game, they live from a place of defense and fear.
Yeah.
Right? Once you create that clarity, people go on the offense, and offensive teams are powerful because they're more creative, they're way more solution focused, they're innovative, they're excited, and they bring their brilliance to the table. So I know we're talking about accountability in terms of our partnership, but also I think what happens is when you take that into your workspace, into your team, what you end up having is a place for people to thrive because there's clarity.
Yeah.
Right? And I think because it's systematic, when I got to look at it, I could also say, okay, there's a breakdown here. Go work with your team in this area.
Yeah.
Find a solution that everybody can use so that it can work. I think the other thing was we also figured out ways where you didn't have to micromanage.
Yeah.
Right? Because you looked at your system, and your system had these checkpoints where you could just go check, done, check. And it gave your team freedom.
Yep. And that was and looking at the space, right, that I'm in, because I don't have employees, right? So, hey, people have, their things that they're doing, they manage their time. And really and truly, to be honest, even when I was in corporate America, that was never my thing. I don't like to be micromanaged, and I definitely don't like to micromanage people at all, right? Mm-hmm. So taking a look at, our work together this year has helped me, find that happy place. I could really show up and really be who I am, right? Because
Well,
just imagine if you're doing something and you don't like to do it, and you feel like, even as a leader, right? You feel like you have to do it, then it's just like, I don't really want to do this. So then you bring that energy to the situation.
that's so well said. And one of the things that you're really talking about is the distinction between leadership and management.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm not a big person for management. So all the teams that I have ever worked with, I love to give them the space to bring their best self to the table. And I learned early on the only way I could do that was to develop systems that put everybody on the same page and created the space, the clearing for people to feel free to create. And it's almost like I gave them the court. This is the court we're playing on. These are the rules of engagement. These are the checkpoints. However you manage that is up to you. And it was amazing how people would show up with their creativity and show up excited because they had a freedom to bring their best self to the space.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Check on your end, and what are people saying? What are you seeing? I'll tell you what I'm seeing.
Okay, so actually, let me go in. I know I'm sharing in my group, so let me go in and see if there are any comments in the group. And I see that Joyce is watching. Hi, Joyce.
Yeah, Joyce is watching.
Thank you so much for jumping on and joining. And yeah, I mean, if there's any questions, or anything that's resonating with, and anyone who's out there watching, maybe you have a question, about accountability and how it shows up, right? Feel free to go ahead and put your questions or your comments into the comment section, and then we will definitely address it on air.
Yeah, I see Sue Davies is watching. So absolutely, anyone who's watching, if you have a question, if you have something you want us to share, definitely please do share it. Because this is the reason we do these lives. The reason I do these lives is to provide valuable content and give people an opportunity to ask. And oftentimes when I jump off, I see all these comments that I got to go back and answer and question.
Isn't it fun?
It is. Well, for me, it's like, okay, this is useful. This is useful info, right? So it gives us the feedback. It holds up the mirror to let us know, okay, this live was working. This content was valuable. And then we've done, and this is, I'm just being candid. And then I've done some lives and it's like crickets. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe that one was only exciting to Suzanne.
Yeah, but that's what it's all about. So I'm glad that you said that, right? Because it's one of the things that, I tell people, that's all part of the process. So even though you have stuff in your business that you are super duper excited about, it doesn't mean
that the marketplace is excited about.
So it doesn't mean that your audience is excited about it. It doesn't mean that your clients, your potential clients, they want it, right? But this is what it's all about. It's always about testing, and it's always about not being afraid, like you said, putting something out there and then just seeing how well it's received. And then, so what? If it's something like it's not a hot topic, nobody wants to know, about it, then you scrap it. Right. And then you go back and you look at your metrics, right? And you start to notice those trends of the things that you talk about, and people really like that content. That should be your cue. Like, oh, I need to create more of this type of content, right? Give the audience what they want.
So that was my growth edge this year. She's like metrics and analytics, and I'm like, what? I gotta do what?
Yeah.
But again, it's the growth. Your accountability partner is going to move you into places where you are required to go as a business owner. And I will say to you that, both of us this year has shifted our businesses. So in January, you'll see some new branding for Suzanne. And what I know, I'm so excited. And it's subtle, but it's the feedback from doing the lives. It's the feedback from training and teaching and speaking, and also bringing that back to the accountability process and to my accountability partners. So there's Brent Simpson, there's Taria, there's Lethea. Those are like 3 of my key people, and bringing stuff back to them and having them share things with me. And what's happened over the year, I was talking to Brent yesterday, and it was like he just it was like he dialed in, and it was like clarity, right? and sometimes you can't see it, right? It's being willing to bring the information to fresh eyes. And he just went, check, honey, this is missing. And I was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Right. So it is, that's what your accountability partners are for. That's what they're there for, because they're coming with their brilliance to your baby. Right.
Yep. And that's what you want. Like I said, sometimes we have the ability to just kind of work in silo, sometimes, and everything is all in our head, and we get so protective. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have some level of protection, but really and truly, you have to be willing to put stuff out there and then get the feedback, right? Absolutely. I've done things that didn't work, and so, okay, it's all right, that didn't work. All right, what else can we do next? You just almost have to always have the attitude like, okay, all right, that didn't work, next. Okay, I know one thing. I know I have no shortage of ideas. That's what I know.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as we wrap, I'm gonna let you have the last word, but I'll give my last 2 cents. One of the things that I've been reading, and I've been reading this book called Peak, and I can't remember the subtitle, but I will take a picture of it and put it in the group. But one of the things they talked about was, as entrepreneurs, we are in practice, right? And, you talk about doctors practicing, and you talk about lawyers practicing, but as entrepreneurs, we are in practice. And the act of intentional, deliberate practice is a commitment to go do, evaluate, course correct, and go do again, right? And so what I want to leave you with is your accountability partner helps you with your practice.
Yeah.
That's my last 2 cents. What are yours, Sam?
Wow. It's so funny because I had the ability to listen to a podcast between Lewis Howes and Simon Sinek, right? Ah. And I do believe the book that Simon, and I bought the book just yesterday. I haven't started reading it as yet. I think it's called Infinite Mindset. And he's talking about the same thing. So how do we, prepare in our minds that we're always, like you said, in practice? Okay. So sometimes we look at the things that, we're doing, or the things that we want to accomplish. We kind of have a finite mindset. We tend to think like, okay, that this is what is going to, this is the goal. And then when I do this and I hit this, and once that goal is achieved, then that's it. I stop. But when you have that infinite mindset, it just keeps pushing you to just keep going and keep going, and keep going. And then like what I found that's so amazing for me this year is that I've been able to create these habits and these disciplines, and like I said, these creative ways to hold myself accountable. And I'm going to tell you how creative I got. I drag other people into my accountability.
Best way. The best way. Morning workout.
I pull other people in, to my madness. And I say, come on, we gonna do this, right? And then, and it's just being able to say, well, okay, so even though, the target, we reached the target, but now it's a practice, and we just keep, doing and improving and doing and improving, and then setting higher targets. So it's just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Taria, thank you so much. Regina says she
loves Simon Sinek. Yes. Oh my God.
And Joyce is like, good stuff. This is
And I see that Nana Cozy Ventures is out there watching. Hi, Nana. How are you? Thank you for jumping on this evening. Nana is a regular on my social media Saturdays, and so is Joyce too. So thank you so much for jumping on and joining.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Tria, I'm so excited for 2020. Oh. And I know we have been pushing to get things completed and get things ready for 2020. Yes. And I am so excited for the next round of accountability. Yeah. I knew with that comes a new round of and level of growth for both of us. Yeah. And what I will say to everyone listening is re-listen to this live, take some notes, and then do the do, implement it. Because if you're ready and your desire is a bold, audacious 2020, then you can't walk there alone. Yeah. So create your accountability people and have them with their different brilliance. Brent's a strategist in business. Tria is a strategist in social media. Lecia is a branding expert. You know, I just started working with a gentleman by the name of Winston, and his thing is marketing and, you know, sales and copywriting. And so it's, and all of them are holding me accountable to getting things done. And so that's what you want. So I'm going to encourage you to build your team, build your team for 2020.
Yes. All right. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for having me on.
You know, I had to close out the year with you. I thought this would be the best conversation. So thank you very much. This is the last live we're doing for 2019. There's so many replays that you can hang out with. We'll probably set up watch parties.
Oh yes, definitely.
But thank you so much for those of you who consistently show up, for walking with me, for commenting and sharing the information. We'll be back bigger, bolder in 2020, and looking forward to partnering and walking with you guys for another year. Tria, as usual, you were brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. We will see you first Thursday, 2020. Take care.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.